Hi, thank you, and thanks to everyone for joining me today in Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip. I'm here in the temporary learning center of Mahrif Mazoun, and this is a place which is so important for us because this is a place where children can begin learning and they can find some sense of normalcy. You know, it's approximately 700,000 children who didn't get any access to formal education in the past 2 years. This is huge. And here, clearly, the children are trying also to find some sense of normalcy because believe me, beyond these tents that are surrounding us, beyond this temporary learning space, nothing is normal. We have approximately 80% of the overall infrastructure in the Gaza Strip, which has been damaged or destroyed. We're talking about homes, we're talking about hospitals, schools, and also water structure, water sanitation structure. Over 90% of the people, almost everyone surrounding me here today, have been displaced in Gaza for multiple times. And very often they are living now in makeshift tents. So let's be very clear here. The crisis is not over in the Gaza Strip. The ceasefire has brought some respite, but despite the ceasefire, children are still being killed. I mean, we're talking about 115 children who were reportedly killed since the 3 months and a half since the ceasefire. And just this weekend, it was 6 or 7 children who were reportedly killed in airstrikes. So the protection of children is very much at stake, but beyond protection, there is also the question of access to basic services. The children are still struggling to get enough food, to get enough water. There is no electricity. The only electricity is coming from power generators, which are requiring fuel to function, which cost a lot of money. There is not enough toilets. The hygiene and sanitation conditions in those IDP camps are very, very dire. You know, with UNICEF, we always state and deliver. And we heard James saying it in a perfect way. Here too, I've been here for 3 years, and we are continuously staying and delivering crucial, critical humanitarian aid. And this is extremely important. We continue to respond with partners and with communities. What did we do? Just in the past few months, we distributed 1 million blankets. We distributed 600,000 or 700,000 kits of warm clothes for children. We have established 70 nutrition centers. We have established more than a dozen primary healthcare centers. And we also fixed, you know, when it rains here, you have major challenges when it comes to hygiene. You have actually open air sewage, which is directly popping up. So we have also contributed to reduce the health risk and the public health risks. But there is also one point that we are working on, and we have to always keep it in mind, is the mental health. You know, beyond the physical suffering, the children have been traumatized by 2 years of war. I will always remember Razan that I met more than a year ago. She was 9-year-old. She has lost her dad, her mom, her 3 brothers and sisters, and her left leg in one strike. We cannot fathom the scale and the scope of the trauma that Razan and all the children here have been through. So this is why we are here and why we are bringing children back to learning and also to some kind of routine, because, you know, this place is not only about learning, it's also providing that mental health and psychosocial support that so many traumatized children need. But that's not it. It's also contributing to nutrition. We are distributing nutrition supplies here. Very often, the warm meal that a child can get in one of these temporary learning space is the only meal that he might or she might have for the day. So it's also a place for them to play and to get health services. You know, at the end of the day, when those tents are not being used anymore for the children to learn, we are vaccinating babies here and continuing the psychosocial support. And, you know, I've been working closely, we all have been working closely with different partner communities, the volunteer teachers who have established 110 of those temporary learning space. That's a lot. And we are already supporting more than 110,000 children in those TLSs, in those temporary spaces. But we need to triple that. Our objective, and that's a short-term objective, we want to reach out to 330,000 children because there are so many, the waiting list for these places are all full. And I also want to, give you a very good news. For the first time, and I was there a few days ago, for the first time, we managed to bring in Gaza education supplies, pencils, erasers, rulers, things that if they are available on the market, most of the families, most of the children simply cannot afford it. And we have been distributing that in temporary learning spaces. And I cannot tell you, I cannot describe to you the smiles on the faces of the children when they received those items. So that's a very, very good news. Now, I am here with my colleague Noor. Noor is an education specialist for working relentlessly with us in Gaza. Good morning, Noor.
Good morning, Jonathan.
So we would like to understand, but really concretely, how are we working with communities to establish those 110 TLSs here in Gaza?
Well, first of all, UNICEF cannot work alone. UNICEF depends on the partnerships on establishing such these learning centers. For example, the community, we have a partnership with the community. The community used to provide the land to be used a learning center. And we have also the role of the local NGOs that works just to establish and providing these learning centers like the putting like the fencing and the tents here. And we have our strategic partner, the Ministry of Education, who is responsible for the staff selection, children registration, monitoring and supervising the learning process. As well, we have as well as the UN sister organization, like the UN Mass, is doing the UN mass clearance when required.
Yes, for the explosive devices that are still everywhere in Gaza.
Because a lot of rebels is present here. And the second one is the UNDP. Sometimes it helps us in remove these rebels. And the WFP providing a crucial role in providing the high energy biscuits to all the children here in our learning centers, associated with WCK, who is providing the hot meals because we have a lot of the malnourished children.
That's very, very good. But there is also one aspect that is always very close to my heart is how children have been traumatized by 2 years of war. Can you tell us, from your perspective, how these spaces, or how these TLSs are supporting those traumatized children?
Well, learning center is not only for academic learning for those children who are living under these extreme stress and trauma. That's why social emotional learning is considered as a core life-saving and life-sustaining component of education. That's why UNICEF is providing mental health and recreational activities through providing many components. For example, we are providing as a UNICEF readiness to learn for KG2 and grade 1. We're providing a play to heal program from grade 2 until 5. And we also providing our partner theater, the protection partner, providing the activities for the from grade 6 to 9, in addition to the activities of a prevention of sexual and exploitation and abuse for all of these staff and the children also. That's why we have a counselor in each learning center we are managing. The bottom line, that social emotional learning helps the children to recognize and express their emotions safely and develop their coping strategies to deal with the stressors. That's why this social emotional learning helps the children to build their state of normalcy. So Jonathan, let me just like to speak with a child called Maha directly to listen.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Let's see the children. Come with us. صباح الخير يا البنات.
صباح الخير يا مس. صباح الخير يا مها. كيف حالك؟ انت وجهك ايش اخبارك؟ مها بدي اسالك بتحبي تيجي على المدرسه وليش؟
طبعا بحب أجي على المدرسة لأنه في المدرسة بنحقق أحلامنا. أنا بنت بحبش الجهل. لما كنا برفح كانت الحياة كتير مظلمة عشان ما فيش إلي صديقات ولا كتاب حتى أقرأ فيه. ولما أجيت على مواصل القرارة كان في مدرسة معارف مازون وجيت استقبلوني بأحلى استقبال. سجلت في مدرسة معارف مازون، كان معلماتها كتير مميزات. أنا حبيت العلم، كنت بلعب مع صديقاتي أنا بحب العلم بدون بسكوتة بدون قرطاسية وجبة غدا كمان. أنا كثير بحب مدرستي عشان أنا بحب أتعلم.
شكرا يا مها. Maha, يعني she is IDB first, and she is speaking about her experiencing when she was in Rafah. There was no education there, and when she moved to Khan Yunis here, she was so lucky, just like to be very close to this school, Ma'arif Mazon, and she is happy just like to join this school to establish a new relationship with her peer group, and they used to receive the high energetic biscuits, the hot meals, the stationery, and she likes the teachers and the school principal because this school restored the sense of normalcy for all the children and Maha.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to you and of course to Maha and to all the children here. As I said, the crisis is not over and far from it. UNICEF has a strong comparative advantage because it has a double mandate, humanitarian and development. And that is where we have to work on the two critical aspects. First, we need to restore vital services. We need to bring the children outside, out of the streets, bring them on the school benches and teach them, help them to write, to read, to do a little bit of math and science as they do here. We need to have those sanitation, health services that are established, nutrition services. It's really a question of survival for many, many families and children. But then together, we also need to rebuild. And the critical infrastructure that has been destroyed by 2 years of relentless war, we're talking about water networks, we're talking about sanitation, hospitals, and also proper school buildings and shelter. To do this, we actually need your support. Without it, it's going to be a major challenge for children like Maha, for all the girls who are surrounding me today. It's absolutely critical that we get the needed support to reimagine the future of Gaza, to create a sustainable future. And the future starts here on those school benches where children can build a future for themselves and they can build hope for themselves. And that cannot be done without you. Thank you very much for having us today. Thanks.
Thank you.